Welcome, everyone, to our LinkedIn Live session. Today, we're excited to share our key observations and insights from the HPE Discover 2024 conference. I'm Scott Implements, Senior Modern Infrastructure Solutions Architect at Myriad 360. Joining me today is our Cybersecurity Field CISO, Daniel Lakier. We've got a lot to cover today, including innovative technologies and impactful strategies that we experienced over the course of the four-day event. So let's dive right in and discuss the highlights of HPE Discover 2024. Daniel, thank you for joining me. Good to be here with you.
Good to be here too, Scott. I'm looking forward to sharing what we learned.
Great. So what were your expectations going into this event?
You know, I've been to several Discovers and Atmospheres now, and I've always wanted to have a joint event. I was really excited to see that they put this together this time, because I think one of the values is that you get to see the sum is better than the parts. This is the first time I've been able to be at an event where they're both together. I was also a little bit interested, well, very interested in the world we're in today. AI is being talked about everywhere. I wanted to see how that would impact the message, both on the infrastructure side and the networking side. And then, the Juniper acquisition, it's created some uncertainty. So I wanted to make sure that the things I was hoping to see weren't impacted by some of those things. And to be fair, I was my expectations were met. How about you, Scott? What did you get from what were you expecting, and how did you find that your expectations were met or not?
Well, I expected, of course, a lot of talk about AI. But at the end of the day, what does that really mean for the HPE partners, the market in general, and most importantly, HPE's customers, right? What was HPE's messaging around this current AI craze? And how do we take that back to our clients and help them, do AI initiatives in that space around HPE's product offerings? So wanted to ask you real quick, what were your overall impressions of the Discover conference this year?
You know, the conference, to be fair, I think any expectations I had, I think were exceeded. The conference was big. I love to see it, not just for HP, but in general. I think conferences are back, and I missed the conference. I missed the interaction with people. The Atmosphere Discover conference was bigger than I expected, and I loved the combined messaging we got in some cases. And I loved the location. I mean, I thought, and I say that, love the location. Nobody loves Vegas, but I love the places they picked out for certain things, like the keynote.
Yeah.
I mean, if I asked you the same question, Scott, what were your key takeaways?
I would say this was a really great conference, and it's a first of its kind keynote in the sphere that really brought the wow factor. I was initially drawn into the keynote because of the location experience, but that didn't distract from the overall messaging I felt, and the content was brought to life in that venue for sure. The HPE did a really good job of communicating vision and their roadmap, and of course the big partnership announcement with NVIDIA around AI, and of course what that means for our clients' initiatives in the AI space. So yeah, and can you share with me a standout moment or highlight from the conference that had a significant impact?
I mean, you just touched on it. I think it's probably the best keynote I've ever been in. The content was good. They exceeded expectations with the messaging around AI. But to have that message this year inside the sphere, all around AI, that was really, it was really great. The other thing that I found, and I usually like, but I think more so this year because of the combination of the compute, the storage, the managed services, as well as the networking and security, was the ability to see my friends, colleagues, customers, partners, and really be able to talk a little bit more holistically, because I had usually when you go to conferences, you have people from networking, you have people from servers, you have people from application, but seldom do I have everyone together where I can pull those people together and talk about holistic solutions that meet holistic business problems. And for yourself, what were your Your key highlights.
I think really the standout moment is Antonio and Jensen sharing the stage at the Sphere, in that venue and announcing the HPE NVIDIA AI partnership. I would say that's huge, as NVIDIA has participated in a lot of technology partner events around AI this past year. But Jensen being there on the stage at HPE Discover with Antonio as part of this keynote really speaks volumes to the entire industry and to the market in general, to the level of collaboration and partnership that was announced and what they're doing together going forward.
I agree.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the sessions or the speakers that kind of really made more of an impact on you. What sessions or speakers did you find most insightful or inspiring, and why was that?
So aside from the already touted keynote we've both spoken about, there were a couple other things that stood out for me, and I think there's really three that I'll touch on, and mostly in the networking space, because that was really networking security were my focus. But I really liked I went to a session around the CX10K and data fabric and integrations, and which we touched on a number of things, but macro segmentation and micro segmentation are inside of fabric architecture are things that a lot of my friends and clients have been talking about for years, and have mostly gone down that path to some level of success, but it's not easy. And the things that I've seen HP do, especially with Pensando, and then making a fabric orchestrator for that, I think that's really making it a lot easier. Is it as granular as you can get with some other solutions? Maybe not, but time to value is unbeatable. And so I love to see what they're doing there, how they're building on top of that, and really I'm continuing to be impressed. AOS 10, I went to a session on AOS 10. For those who haven't heard of AOS 10, it's the new operating system that Aruba brought out. Now, a lot of companies bring out new operating systems, but very seldom do they change the foundation. And it's something I've expected for a long time for the whole network industry to go down the path, moving away from this concept of shared memory to a system database, like we would build any modern architecture. Arista was the first to do it. Everyone else has been a little bit reticent. Aruba have done it, and it's excellent. The ability to have a modular operating system where I can potentially patch, the ability to add additional functions in, it is the way a network operating system should be built. So really great to see they're staying the course. It's one of those things I was a little bit nervous to see if they would remain committed because of some of the uncertainty with acquiring other companies. But I love that session, put those uncertainties to bed for me. And then the other one was looking at, I went to a session on accelerating the deployment, using Central really to accelerate deployment en masse and of large networks. This is not necessarily new functionality for Aruba, but it's new to Central. There wasn't feature parity. And then they've built on top of that. And so, glad to see that Central's becoming what is well on the way to becoming more than just a network visibility platform, but really a whole IT infrastructure management platform. Again, love the content. I know you went to different sessions than me. What were your main takeaways or speakers that you really enjoyed?
And my background is networking as well too, but I really wanted to focus this year on the AI stuff and the offerings around a hybrid cloud, especially HPE's GreenLake offerings, that consumption model that they've really matured that for their clients, especially around the storage offerings. So I spent quite a bit of time really focused on that. I think the innovations this past year that HPE's announced for their storage platform offerings and being in that consumption model of GreenLake for private clouds and some public cloud offerings running, they consolidated everything down to this HPE Alletra Storage MP hardware platform, right? And they're leveraging software-defined storage for virtually any storage type now. Historically, HPE hasn't had an offering or a good offering around file. So they around this time last year, they announced GreenLake for file storage, and they built that on the vast data software platform, and they're leveraging that Alletra Storage MP modular hardware. So the really kind of they're taking the best of from a block perspective. They're which has been their platform offering for a while. They're taking the best of Electra, Primera, and Nimble, and kind of consolidating that down on a single combined software-defined block storage data platform. So this effectively unifies HPE's SAN and NAS hardware offerings into one flexible platform on the Electra MP hardware. So I found that really interesting. And then to wrap that into a consumption-based model for the clients for GreenLake so that they can scale as needed and only pay for what they use instead of having to buy a bunch of hardware, standing up in their data centers, and then having that CapEx cost, and then to put that into a consumption model where they have a dashboard and they can run it like in this cloud-like operating model, I think is huge. And I think it's really important for our clients, and being able to simplify that on a standard hardware from HPE and have that software defined for the different storage types. I think that's huge.
I think especially with some of the changes that people are having, you mentioned file, but I've seen a lot of my customers talking about the increasing cost from some of the traditional vendors in that space. So I think the timing is excellent.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to me, you mentioned earlier about the Juniper acquisition. There wasn't a lot of talk about what that looks like for the future. So I found that it really interesting, at least on the networking side of it. I think there's, once they kind of figure out where Juniper fits into the HPE portfolio as a whole, and what parts of Aruba and Juniper they're going to put together, or are they going to keep them separate? There's going to be some major announcements there. But I was a little surprised that there wasn't more about that Juniper acquisition while we were there.
I guess they take their SEC requirements seriously, but yeah,
absolutely. So, my next question for you, Daniel, is how do you plan to kind of apply the knowledge or insights gained from the conference to future projects within Myriad 360 for our clients?
No, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think that the most exciting, there's more resources. There's a number of different answers to that. Aruba have added, and HP, but Aruba specifically have added a lot of great resources over the last 24 months. They hired an excellent field CTO for data center. They just brought on a field CISO that I know very well, Graham Ludlow, formerly from Marriott Vacations. They've really brought really thought leaders, because one of the things that a lot of organizations do is they build great technology, and then they don't tell you how you could practically use that technology. And that was the thing I've felt frequently was missing. Aruba HP have a lot of solutions, but they don't always bring them to market in an easy to consume manner. So I'm going to use the resources that I have, because there's more resources than there's ever been, from vertical specialists to technology specialists to thought leaders who can tell you how to use the technology. Then the idea that we can sell solutions that are optimized to work together. And what I mean by that is, when you look at the AR presentation, it's not just about how do I deploy the best GPU. It's not just how do I deploy ASICs. It's how do I deploy those in conjunction with the network that's optimized for that. If I can't deploy it in my own data center, what are my options for having access to this type of functionality for a limited period of time? How do I tie a management platform that's a single management platform that allows me to optimize the whole environment together? Not just in AI, but in general. It's something that this isn't not a new concept, certainly not for HP. If you remember HP OpenView, it was too difficult to use, too difficult to realize the potential, but I think we're getting there. You mentioned GreenLake earlier. I love what they're doing with GreenLake. I love the fact that when they acquired OpsRamp, they're rolling that functionality and adding performance on top of NNM functionality. I really like, and they're not the first. HP is not the first vendor to talk about having a holistic approach, holistic view, but I think they might be acting on it a little bit quicker than the others. I don't know if I answered your question, Scott, and I don't know, Are those different than what your takeaways were or similar?
Absolutely, and I'll be a little bit more general in my in kind of like how do I apply that insight to to what our clients need and what kind of projects we're working on. I'd like to say really as any with any big industry announcements and technology innovations, we have to distill that down to a specific client need, right? So our clients may or may not be adopting these technologies out of the gate, right? And it's up to us as technologists to clearly communicate and educate them in these technologies, and then tie that back into the business need or requirement that enables them to adopt these innovations so they can go to market faster, they can streamline day-to-day operations, and better serve their clients, their customers, and of course, their internal folks and their employees, right? So at the end of the day, it's really about taking what we've learned at all these sessions and being able to educate and enable our clients in all of these different areas.
Yeah. If I can add one other thing that was surprising for me in the technology area, obviously everyone knows Aruba as a wireless leader, but in this there was a lot of talk about how Wi-Fi 7 is coming and what we can do with it and how we're going to integrate AI. But I think one of the things that they've been really early on was already, I say early compared to many of the other vendors I speak to, even the behemoths in the industry. If I ask them about something called private 5G, they don't always know what I'm talking about. But it solves a real problem in a number of different areas, especially where I've got problems with coverage, too much metal, too much water, too much open area, or where I need to, in some cases, unique use cases where I need to say maybe limit the ability for people to use their technology in a certain environment unless they're authorized, or authorize only certain people. Think of potentially, schools and iPhones. It's a big problem right now, or maybe prisons and illegal phone usage. And the 5G doesn't just allow coverage, but allows a solution in those environments where I'm not going to violate, rules from the government. So, and it's really simple to deploy as well. I've got large retail. In a previous life, I dealt with retail that would stand up locations and do a lot of the revenue only 3 months a year and then take those locations down. A lot of equipment has to be deployed to do that. Potentially now we have the ability to do that with one device. Again, forward thinking, really, really in an area where you would think that Aruba would find it hard to really come up with new things because they have been the leader for so long, and yet they are.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting. So what does the future look like in this industry from an HPE perspective?
So I think like most, from my perspective on the networking side, and I'll ask you the same question in a minute in a more generalized sense. But I think the last 4 years have really made it hard for organizations to be. We all say we're architecturally driven and vendor agnostic, and the reality is we are until we can't be. Think of the supply chain problems with COVID. And one of the things I loved, maybe 10 years ago, Aruba bought a company called Airwave, and Airwave was it gave us the ability to manage wireless environments in a vendor agnostic way and wired environments. So if we went to an organization that said we want to switch from one to another, or we're forced to have multiple because we made an acquisition, how do we get a global view? There was an answer. That functionality was deprecated over the last few years, and there wasn't really a lot of people focus on this type of functionality in the data center, but there was nothing beyond the data center that I felt comfortable with. The announcement that OpsRamp is now going to move towards doing multi-vendor visibility, multi-vendor support, and then add performance on top of that, I think is huge. And I think it addresses a reality in that our customers may be vendor first, but they will not be vendor only. And so having a solution that allows someone to choose you as their vendor of choice, but then also give them the flexibility in the event that they can't or that they have to migrate, have this, it's really what I consider a real world view. And I was very excited to see that HP is taking some solid, not just saying something and then saying they will do something, but actually taking solid steps towards allowing our customers to be in this type of model. everything else is in pieces, but this idea that I'm going to build an architecture that allows my customer, our clients in the industry to be more flexible is excellent. Beyond the networking, what do you think the future holds? What did you see that I may not have been able to attend the sessions in?
I think you made a really good point there. I think I think all of these OEMs, these manufacturers, sometimes tend to want to have an offering in every space and be the number one or number two in that technology space. But to your point, they also I think HPE understands that their clients are going to have multiple different technologies from multiple different manufacturers and OEMs, and to be able to actually leverage that in that environment seamlessly is important, and it's important for the clients too, so they don't feel like they're in vendor lock-in all the time. The future looking from my perspective, like I said, I've been a little bit more AI and hybrid cloud focused during this Discover in these sessions. So I see AI as a service. Really, I know we have a lot of clients that are trying to build out private clouds with AI capabilities, but I see already AI as a service is becoming more of a primary method for quickly adopting AI and running large language models to get a business outcome, whatever that means for that particular client. And I see it getting less costly as more clients consume AI for their specific business need, and the market gets more and more competitors in that space. And it's going to be less like the public cloud offerings where you really have 3 or 4 major players. I think there's going to be a lot more AI as a service players in the market that are going to drive competition and kind of lower some of those costs for customers, because it is very expensive to run these models and to build these data sets out on these models to be able to do whatever it is the business is trying to do with their data. And then I think AI for observability in the tools like network monitoring and the monitoring and management tools across the board, especially in the security space. I really think that AI is going to drive a lot of innovation there and take some of the what we like to call where you get alert fatigue out of the equation for a lot of our clients that are constantly trying to manage all the different alerts and everything in the network, in their security stack, and I think AI is really going to help there from that perspective.
Scott, you mentioned 2 things, and I wonder if you see them being tied together at some point. Earlier, you mentioned GreenLake and IT as a consumption service, really, and then you mentioned AI in the cloud. Do you see, or did they mention, if they did, I missed it, but you may have seen it, where they were going to maybe allow you to deploy GreenLake as your primary on-prem, and then be able to flow into the cloud as needed, but all in one sort of architecture overlaid with GreenLake or something like that?
As part of the NVIDIA announcement, GreenLake was a big portion of that. So that consumption model for AI as a service in GreenLake was part of that big partnership announcement. Not just the architecture itself, but also it has that GreenLake as a service offering to be able to run AI. As far as running that into and scaling that into the public clouds, I think that's kind of because the offering is so new, or it's kind of yet to be determined which public cloud providers that HPE could partner with in that area and be able to actually be able to work with those public cloud providers, and because they have their own AI offerings as well too, right? But a lot of times those public cloud operators will partner with these OEMs to expand storage offerings, AI offering, compute offerings and stuff in their public cloud space for that consumption model to make it more seamless, right? So I think we're going to see more and more of that as time goes on. Because at the end of the day, HPE just wants to make it easy for clients to consume their technology offerings.
So to wrap it up, I guess, did you walk away feeling that the warm and fuzzies that HPE Aruba's continue to be on the right path, or path that you find interesting?
I do. I think they're making some huge moves in the market to keep up with the ever-changing landscape of all the technology innovations, especially around AI, which is the huge chatter in the market right now. But I think they're really kind of streamlined a lot of their product offerings and simplified it, and then of course wrapped it up with different GreenLake offerings where it can become a consumption-based model. And so I really like what HPE is doing. I like what the simplification of their product offerings and just what they're doing to make it easy for clients to consume.
I have felt the same. I think what they've done a really good job in the last really 24 months against, in some cases, a lot of headwind, was build a foundation that allows them to build a flexible architecture, both flexible from a technology standpoint and flexible from a financial standpoint that really meets the modern needs. And they're improving it all the time. So I'm excited about the future with them. I
am too. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me on this LinkedIn Live session. Really appreciate you being here, and it was good to spend some time with you at HPE Discover and kind of share all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you all for joining our recap of HPE Discover. If you enjoyed today's session, be sure to like and follow our page for more insights and innovations shaping the world and how Myriad 360 can help your company stay ahead and stay ready. To learn more about Myriad or to book a discovery session, visit myriad360.com or contact us at hello@myriad360.com. Follow and like us on our LinkedIn. Visit our website at myriad360.com. And we have some upcoming events. In August, we'll be at Black Hat. We'll be at DEF CON in August as well, too. And in October, we'll be at NANOG. Come by, say hi. We'd love to meet you. Thank you so much.